Welcome back to Let's Make a Game, a channel about making computer role-playing games using the free program Twine and the Sugarcube format for Twine. In this video, I would like to continue talking about my current project of coding the combat system for a viewer's game. In particular, I'd like to keep talking about the system for changing from one weapon to another. So I've set up a battle here against a single enemy, and down the bottom, as usual, we have buttons that represent the different options that I have. There's no companions, so I can't give any orders. I can't advance because I'm right up against the enemy. But I can retreat. I have shoot and pistol whip, which are options from the pistol that I start with. And we have the inventory button, which we introduced in the last video. So it's all as it was as of last video. However, if I click the inventory button, we will see some new features. So we can see that I have a list of different weapons that it's randomly decided I have, and a pistol in my hand. But there's now a new lot of buttons marked equip. And if I choose to click, let's say, the smoke grenade, well, now I've got a smoke grenade in hand, and the pistol is in the inventory slot that the smoke grenade previously occupied. I can swap back. I can take a machete instead, etc. So I can pick a new weapon, in short. So when we return, we can see that the options to do with using the weapon have changed. Instead of shoot and pistol whip, which are the pistol options, we have slash and throw, which are the machete options, or specifically the sharp machete options, although I think the blunt machete has the same ones. And it doesn't exactly behave as we would expect. So I'll show you what I mean. I can slash, and that's as we'd expect, because the enemy is still undamaged and therefore hovering, and therefore not in range of a slash attack. So instead I might choose to throw it, and there's only one option for that. Let's say I choose it. Well, it makes the attack as it should, but when we go down the bottom, we see that, well, I've still got slash and throw. Well, what am I slashing and throwing if I've thrown away my machete? And if we go to inventory, we can see that I've still got the machete in hand. And that, of course, is because we haven't yet done the code for when you throw a one-use weapon, or when you use an attack that uses up the weapon, you should lose the weapon, right? Just as we haven't been dealing with ammunition for the pistol, we haven't done any code that says that when you throw a grenade, for example, you lose the grenade. But we have only done the code that allows us to swap from one weapon to the other. And that is what I'm going to show you in the rest of this video. So let's X out of that and X out of that. The code that we're going to look at is all in inventory and this new passage called equip. Now, even though attacking with the machete was sort of a new thing, or throwing the machete was a new thing, there's no new code for that. We've already dealt with the code that does the attacks for the weapons in previous videos. So it's just the fact that we can now equip those weapons that makes that code able to be applied to weapons other than the pistol. So I'm just going to talk about how we swap weapons. So let's look at inventory. As I said in the previous video, we set it up as an array, and after printing the name of the weapon, next to that on the same row, we have a separate cell that has the equip button, which sends us to the new passage, which is also called equip, although the title of the passage is in lowercase. So this is one of those cases where it prints out a piece of code and it'll be something like this. I'll just retype it so it's a bit easier to see what we would get. Let's say 4. So Z, in this particular case, refers to what inventory slot are we going to equip. It's not the number of the weapon in the sense of being what number that weapon has in the arrays that are to do with weapons. It's to do with what slot in this inventory array we're dealing with. We're always dealing with inventory 0 something because this is only the player character exchanging their weapons. The way that it will work in terms of companions when I add that code is that we can't directly exchange weapons for the companions, but we can look at what they have, or we will be able to look at what they have, and we will be able to order them to equip that particular weapon, and then whether that order succeeds or not will work in the same way that other orders have, i.e. there'll be a roll and various modifiers. So for now we're only dealing with the player character themselves doing stuff. So it'll print something like this. Button with this text on the button. This is the destination. If either of these had spaces, we would need to enclose them in quotes. As it is, we could enclose them in quotes if we wanted to, but we don't have to because they're a single word each. In the middle, we have some sort of code that says set Z equal to 4 or whichever inventory slot we're dealing with, and then /button. And that code here will execute when the button, or when and if the button is clicked. So we click the button, and that takes us to equip. And all we do there is swap weapon 0 with inventory 0Z, 0 for the player character, Z for the inventory slot that we determined in the previous passage. And we do that in a way that I've demonstrated quite a lot of times, where we have a temporary variable that acts as a sort of middleman. So we set Y equal to weapon 0, we set weapon 0 equal to inventory 0Z, then we set inventory 0Z equal to Y, and if you write down sort of mock values for these variables and follow through what would happen, you will find that at the end of this process, the two non-temporary variables, the two variables that matter, will have swapped their initial values. So the weapon, because weapon is the array that keeps track of what the character has in hand, and weapon 0 is specifically what the player character has in hand, and inventory 0 something is a slot in the inventory of character 0, which in this case means, again, the player character. The effect of all this will be take the weapon that's in the player character's hand, swap it with whichever inventory slot we're dealing with, and then go back to the page inventory where we displayed what was in the inventory. And so we'll see that the previous weapon, what was the carried weapon, is now in the metaphorical backpack, and probably literal backpack perhaps. I don't know what the fictional, where this stuff is meant to be stored, but whatever, it's on their person somewhere, and the one that was in the backpack that they chose is now the one that they're wielding. I have decided not to treat that as an action. I think that is what the person whose game this is going to be wanted from memory, although I haven't looked at that particular part of their correspondence for a while, so I might be wrong. At the moment, there isn't a limit of being able to do this once per turn. Again, if that would be fairly easy to do, but I will do that if the viewer indicates that that's what they want. But at the moment, it's a free action, as it were. You can do it as often as you want. You can grab a grenade, throw the grenade, and then use something else for your next action. And as I said before, of course, there's a lot of flaws in the weapon system. At least we can change weapons now. But none of the weapons are really behaving as they're meant to behave. The weapons that require ammunition, well, no, that's not true. The machete, sort of clubs and melee type weapons like that are behaving as they're meant to. But weapons that require ammunition aren't requiring ammunition, and they're not diminishing the amount of ammunition you have. And weapons that you can use once, like you can throw a throwing knife, or you can throw a grenade and that sort of uses it up. That doesn't happen. You throw the grenade and you sort of still have the grenade. So that's what we're going to do. That sort of thing is what we're going to deal with in the videos to come. However, for now, I will leave it. And I hope that was useful or interesting to at least some of you. And I hope you will tune in next time.